Before his days as a renegade among renegades, Fabius Bile, known more commonly now as Clone Lord or Manflayer by those who bear him ill will, or primogenitor and benefactor by his children and allies. This individual is responsible for both an enormous amount of discord between the traitor legions, as well as many of their salvations over the years of the Long War. Unfortunately, the exploits of this genius aren't incredibly well known within the wider 40k fanbase, an absolute travesty I plan on correcting in this video. Bile is no typical moustache-twirling villain, mind you, though he does enjoy a love for classical music and historic quotations. Even as a young boy within a noble family on Terra, Fabius had an incredible fascination with how the mind and flesh worked. This is thanks largely to a servant of his family's house who would teach him the ways of flesh crafting, using his skills on small animals such as mice. Interesting hobbies children have in the far future, though surely Bile would have had an interest in such things already to be so passionate about it. When the flesh tithes on Terra began, Fabius Bile was one of the Terran children to be sent and therefore was eventually inducted into the 3rd Legion, the legion which would eventually become known as the Emperor's Children. Fabius would serve with distinction throughout the years of the Great Crusade, working his way into the Legion's command structure. Fabius would earn the rank of Lieutenant Commander and Chief Apothecary within the Emperor's Children, working closely with his Primarch Fulgrim in the years preceding the heresy to perfect their understanding of the genetic art so they could surgically enhance legionaries, all in the name of perfection. For those Noise Marines fans out there, you can thank Fabius for their creation. It was Fabius Bile who created the original Noise Marines, known then as the Cacophony. During the time of the Horus Heresy, it is known the Emperor's Children did not take part in the siege of the Imperial Palace as originally planned, as they'd recently devolved into a legion of sadists and hedonists through their devotion to the chaos deity Slaanesh. The Emperor's Children were content on quenching their desires in the blood and other various matters of the civilian populace. During this time, Bile undertook numerous experiments on Terra's population, further adding to his terrible knowledge. Funnily enough, Fabius Bile never devoted his soul or service to Slaanesh like the majority of his legion did. His fascination has always been with the genetic science and technology used to create the Space Marines, and after that, how he could improve upon it. Fabius, in his own way, has held firm to the imperial truth, the ideology spread and propagated by mankind during the Unification Wars and Great Crusade, that there is no such thing as gods or sorcery, and that all mysteries could be explained by science. In Fabius' words, the Chaos Gods are no more than a random confluence of celestial phenomena. Gods are for the weak. Following the Traitor Legion's defeat and the period of history known as the Scouring, Bile would find refuge among his fellow 3rd Legionnaires in the Eye of Terror. For those who aren't aware, following the Traitor Legion's defeat at the Siege of Terra and the death of Horus, the surviving Traitor Legions were driven back, eventually finding refuge in the Eye of Terror. Once within the Eye, the legions were fractured with no overarching leadership, and the Sons of Horus were the scapegoat among the surviving legions. They blamed Horus and his legion for the failure the siege was. The remaining Sons of Horus were hunted down within the Eye by their erstwhile brothers-in-arms, almost to extinction, and the 3rd Legion were among the most zealous in this bloody campaign. As you can probably appreciate, this is a very hypocritical view, given the lackluster performance among some of the traitor legions during the siege and the infighting of their primarchs. During the time called the Legion Wars, Fabius Bile, along with many of the Emperor's Children, dwelt upon the world of Harmony, Canticle City. During these original years of banishment within the Eye of Terror, Canticle City was one of the largest bases of operations the 3rd Legion controlled, and was a major asset in the Legion Wars, as the Emperor's Children could launch attacks against enemy legions and hunt down the remaining Sons of Horus. From his laboratory beneath Canticle City, Bile would continue work on his project to create the perfect Primarch clones. This included Horus, in a plan to end the Legion Wars and see the Emperor's Children victorious. Besides numerous failed attempts at Primarch clones, we learn there were at least 2 perfect clones that were created in this time. These are the clone of Horus and the clone of Fulgrim. Unfortunately for Bile, when the Sons of Horus finally reunite under the leadership of Abaddon, they strike back at those who have been so cruel and unforgiving in their persecution of the sons of their legion. In their vengeance for being hunted over the centuries within the Eye, Abaddon and one of his most prolific lieutenants, Kion, hurl Kion's previous flagship at Canticle City from orbit and destroy it utterly. Many Emperor's children trying to flee or take the fight to the enemy are destroyed by Abaddon's vessel, the Vengeful Spirit. Again, unfortunately for Bile during this battle, his clone of Horus is killed by Abaddon, impaling the clone of his gene father on his own talon. The clone of Fulgrim was kept intact in an operating vat under the surface of the planet, though at the time Fabius believed it destroyed. For the act of attempting to recreate the Primarchs, those who had the galaxy in their grip yet failed, Abaddon holds a special hatred in his heart for Fabius, and for the wanton destruction caused upon his laboratories and centuries worth of research erased. Fabius Bile likewise detests the self-proclaimed Warmaster of Chaos. Following the defeat at Harmony, Fabius flees and takes refuge on the Aldari Crone world of Urim. Here, Fabius establishes a base of operations and recommits himself to his research for the next few millennia. Apothecaries from various legions such as the World Eaters, Night Lords and Death Guard are drawn to Fabius' holdings on Urim, hoping Bile will take them into his inner circle of students. He takes under his wing quite a number of apothecaries, teaching the worthy many secrets, including the art of reproducing legionaries. Some of these individuals return to their legion to further increase their numbers or provide their services to the highest bidder, becoming primogenitors for hire. Though Fabius Bile views a lot of these students as useful tools, he also does grow bonds and care about particular individuals that either study under him or work with him in some other form. Often these individuals are gifted with significant potential that Bile finds fascinating, a connection that can potentially lead to a small emotional bond. Fabius makes forays through the Eye for raw materials, meeting new friends and making lifelong enemies along the way, as only Fabius can. He also ventures into real-time space, as his project to seed the galaxy with his own new men has finally begun. On various Imperial settled worlds there are those within the Emperor's Children Legion, as well as a particular Harlequin troop, who strive to inspire Fabius to step into his old Legion role of Lieutenant Commander. The motivation between these factions is different, as is the desired outcome, some wanting Bile to lead a united Emperor's children to glory once more, and others, such as the Harlequins, wanting him to ascend to this role, to likely avoid an even worse cataclysm befalling their own race. Bile is too canny, however. While deep down he does feel the temptation to take up his old mantle and lead his legion to glory, he refuses to be manipulated by others, and eventually realizes that to dedicate himself to uniting his fallen brothers would take from him what strength he has left, and will rob himself, as well as the galaxy, of the future they all deserve, which is a galaxy populated by his new men, a perfect galaxy. In the most recent Warhammer 40k lore, Fabius is still at his old tricks, pursuing his agenda of supplanting the current humanity with his own new men. However, he does become infatuated with side projects as his intellect is vast and easily becomes distracted with new ponderings and curiosities. Fabius is curious of the workings of the Primaris Marines, as you could appreciate. It will be interesting to see whether Games Workshop makes use of this snippet of lore when it comes to tabletop miniature in the future. Fabius is an interesting character in that he is driven by a creative purpose, though he has no qualm in committing atrocities on his path to genetic revolution. He can be almost relatable in that he forms close connections with his creations and other Marines. These connections display what could perhaps be termed a friendship between Fabius and his colleagues, and at other times his misplaced trust and ambition can leave you feeling almost bad for him. Fabius is a highly driven individual who could, if he wanted, unite an entire traitor legion and pose a very substantial threat to both the factions within the Eye and those races who dwell in real space. I hope you've learnt some new facts and lore regarding this often misunderstood character. I really hope you've enjoyed my comprising and retelling of 40k lore. If you have enjoyed it or want to be alerted to more of my videos as I plan to upload each week, please consider leaving a like and subscribe. Until next time, stay safe and take it easy.